Hello and welcome. I'm Lynda Kinkade. Ahead here on CNN Newsroom, Syria's rebels rise from the ashes of the civil war and storm into Aleppo. Could this lead to the toppling of the Assad regime? Also, a cruel reminder: Hamas releases disturbing footage of a hostage, Eden Alexander, as his mother begs for a deal for his release. Plus, battling human trafficking and modern-day slavery in international airports. We'll take a look at a major campaign underway in Australia.
Live from Atlanta, this is CNN Newsroom with Lynda Kinkade.
We begin in Syria, where rebel forces are suddenly posing the biggest threat to the regime of Bashar al-Assad in a decade. They're now in control of most of the country's second largest city, Aleppo, after launching a surprise attack days ago. Syria's defense ministry says dozens of soldiers have already been killed. The rebels claim to be in control of Aleppo's international airport, releasing new photos showing fighters inside the main terminal. They've also seized the entire northern province of Idlib, part of which was held by the Syrian regime. The area highlighted in yellow shows what the opposition has taken so far. As rebel fighters storm through the north, fears are growing that they could capture other major cities and end up marching all the way to the capital, Damascus. It appears they've met little resistance from the Syrian army, with residents telling CNN there hasn't been a lot of fighting in Aleppo's urban areas. Russian and Syrian warplanes have launched counterstrikes over the past 4 days. Syrian officials claim they're targeting, quote, terrorists, gathering movements and supply lines. Our Wedeman has more now on what paved the way for this surprising resurgence of Syria's armed opposition.
The facade of government power in Aleppo was poster thin. Friday evening, rebels stomp on pictures of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Just a few days ago, they were far away from Syria's second city. Now they control some of Aleppo's most iconic landmarks, like the vast central Saadal al-Jabari Square and the city's ancient citadel. 8 years ago, opponents of the Damascus regime left Aleppo in defeat, bust out to nearby rebel-held Idlib province. Now they're back after a lightning offensive. Ali Jum'a fled his native Aleppo 8 years ago. It's an undescribable feeling, he says, to return to your land, your city, the place where you were raised. Syrian government ground forces haven't put up much of a fight. Residents report seeing them leave several areas. The defense ministry in Damascus issued a statement saying troops had conducted a, quote, strategic redeployment aimed at reinforcing defensive lines. In other words, they retreated. Russian forces are hitting back, conducting airstrikes on both Aleppo and nearby Idlib province, a stronghold for the anti-regime coalition. A major component of that coalition, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, is an offshoot of Al-Qaeda, but has distanced itself in recent years. Russia came to the rescue of the Syrian government in 2015, but diverted some of its resources to the war in Ukraine. Hezbollah fighters from Lebanon fought alongside the regime during the civil war's darkest days. Most returned home to join the war against Israel, opening the way for the rebel offensive. We participated in the operation to liberate Aleppo, to kick out the militias of Iran and Hezbollah, to lift the oppression from our brothers in Aleppo, says rebel fighter Mohammed Hamadi. And we're going to clear all of Syria, God willing. A brutal war, stalemated in recent years, rages again. Ben Wedeman, CNN, Rome.
For more, I'm joined by Jill Doughtery, a CNN contributor and adjunct professor at Georgetown University. Good to have you with us, Jill.
Hey, Lynda.
So the Syrian rebel retake of Aleppo was swift. It was unexpected. The government seemed to be caught completely unaware, right?
Definitely. I mean, the reports that are coming in are that that group of rebels were able to very quickly take Aleppo and some other areas. So it appears that, you know, the forces that are in there, Russia, Iran, Hezbollah, they were all pretty much blindsided. And Russia went back in, as it did a number of years ago, back in 2016, with airstrikes, but they were much more limited than they carried out back in 2016.
Right. And of course, we've heard from retired Colonel Cedric Leighton, who spoke earlier about what this could mean for the Syrian president. I just want to play some of that sound.
I think the Assad regime is incredibly weakened right now. And what you see is one of these classic moves in the Middle East, and especially in the Arab world, where all of a sudden, out of seemingly nowhere, you have a group like this Hayat al-Tahrir al-Sham that is actually going in and moving very quickly. They're advancing at an incredible rate. And if they do actually reach Hama, as Ben Wedeman has mentioned, they may have already reached the outskirts, according to some reports. That could spell a real challenge for the Assad regime, could potentially result in its toppling, but we'll see what happens in the next juncture here.
What's your reading of the situation, Jill? Could these rebels topple the regime, and how much support can they expect from Russia right now?
Well, I do agree. I'm not a Mideast expert. I'm really a Russia person, but I do think it's significant that the friends and the allies, again, getting back to Iran, Russia, and Hezbollah, all of them are involved in other things. You know, Russia is in Ukraine and very much tied down there. Iran has been hit by Israel. Hezbollah has been hit by Israel. So the friends of the Assad regime are not as strongly with him as they might have been in other circumstances.
And I want to get your take on the pressure that Vladimir Putin is under right now. Putin is threatening Ukraine with a nuclear-capable ballistic missile. How much pressure is Russia under?
Well, I think what they're doing right now is they're trying to put Ukraine under pressure. They are, and also the West, because what Russia is saying right now, big picture, is that they are at war with NATO and the United States. They now say that NATO and the United States are actually complicit, directly complicit in this war in Ukraine. And so they can retaliate. And that's why you're getting a lot of this nuclear posturing, new missiles, firing that missile a week or so ago. There was a new type of hypersonic missile and a lot of nuclear threats. Because I do think it's worrying to Putin that that Ukraine was able to fire long-range missiles. And so they're pulling up the pressure and trying to attack Ukraine with anything that they've got right now.
And Jill, while I've got you, I want to ask you about the situation in Georgia. You were recently in Georgia. We know the government there has been trying to move the country away from the EU, closer to Russia. There have been mass protests across cities in the country for a third night in a row. What's your reading of the situation?
It's very, very tense and very unpredictable, because what you have is these protests on the streets are growing. There are thousands and thousands of people. It is being brutally repressed. And really the stakes are, does Georgia move toward the EU because the people want it? You know, the polls show 80% of the people do want to become members of the European Union. But the government is saying it's on hold until 2028. That's creating enormous frustration. And where this goes really is unclear, but it's a very serious and dangerous situation.
Yeah, it certainly is. All right, we will continue to cover all those stories. Staying across the door for us, still Doughtery. Good to have you with us. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynda.